Well, it was expected. We still have regulators to get through, but there's little over flying between two airlines, as was pointed out. I don't think that will be a major problem on the part of the regulators. And they need the market mass to effectively compete with United and Delta.
You know, that's a key point. Doug Parker, CEO of U.S. Airways, made the point to me. He said, we're trying to actually go head-to-head with Delta and United, so we're not going to raise fares. We might even lower them on some routes. Do you take that at face value? Do you think that's a legit statement?
I think it's important to have three strong competitors going at it with each other than having two strong competitors and two weaker airlines that would eventually probably have to disappear. So I think this is good for everybody, the companies involved and the traveling public, and ultimately the investors.
So, Ray, there are a number of steps that need to happen in order for these two companies to come together. The Department of Justice, namely, has to approve the merger under the Hart-Scott-Rodino Act. Where does that stand in your view right now?
Well, they're probably just beginning to look at it. You can't judge ahead of time how long it will take, but the procedures that have been used in the past was competing routes, and there's not a lot of competition between the routes the two airlines fly right now. Another is the market mass, which this will bring it up to the size of their two main competitors. And then in particular markets, you have to look at if there's too much competition, like control of National Airport in Washington, D.C.
Ray, ultimately, is this a good thing or a bad thing for airline passengers?
Ultimately, this is going to be good for the traveling public because you have three strong competitors instead of two. It'll be good for the investors because you'll have a viable airline, and ultimately, it'll be good for the employees of both companies.
Trish, you remember we were traveling through Cincinnati right before the election, and of course when Delta closed down that hub, it was devastating to the airport. There was so little traffic there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I remember we were talking about it at the time, Adam, because Adam was making this point that, you know, there was a time when this was actually it was expected to be incredibly busy, and there was a time when it was very, very busy.
5,000 travelers a day down to 2,000.
And it was like a ghost town. It really was.
Ray Neidl, what's your take on the need or not for 8 hubs? Currently they have 8 hubs, 6 big ones, another 2. 8 hubs, do they really need 8 hubs?
Well, probably not long term, but I think they're looking at it fairly to determine how they'll operate the new system. In the case of Cincinnati that you talked about, when Delta merged with Northwest, Cincinnati's too close to the huge hub that Northwest had in Detroit, and that's why it became extra baggage that had to be restructured. And that's one of the reasons why the airlines are going to start, or have started, to return to consistent profitability, is they're eliminating the smaller, high-cost type hubs that were duplicate.
Do you think that American Airlines and United, or rather American Airlines and U.S. Airways coming together, do you think they need both Phoenix and Dallas?
Well, that's the big question. Phoenix is more of a leisure type of hub, lower yielding hub. Dallas is a business hub. On the other side, you've got Los Angeles, and I don't consider that a hub for American. There's too many different airlines there. I know it's listed as a hub, but it's a very competitive market, which might give Phoenix a chance to survive. But yeah, if one hub is eliminated, that might be the first candidate.